that was agreed to between Kim Jong-un and President Trump today. But I think what's the most distressing about this morning is that the president seems to have agreed to stop all of our joint exercises with South Korea without South Korea's knowledge that he was going to do that, and that he's done it for really nothing in return except a promise from Kim Jong-un to keep going in this process. Now, Kim says he's going to destroy a missile site, but they have several. They have mobile launchers. It really isn't much. So I'm very concerned today, and I think what we need to see next is Secretary Pompeo, who I think is going to go have consultations with some of our allies and partners, which is important and promising. I'm sure the South Koreans will have a lot of questions. The Japanese are going to have a lot of questions because those joint exercises not only are protection for South Korea, but it's part of the overall alliance posture, not only to deal with the nuclear weapons of North Korea, but as importantly, perhaps in the first instance, conventional weapons, which also could be catastrophic for the region. So there's a long way to go here. Secretary Pompeo has his work cut out for him, and I look forward to seeing a timetable and specific steps and specific actions on what is going to be a very, very long and very difficult road.
Professor Lee, what's your take on this? How comfortable or uncomfortable are you with what Trump announced this morning?
Well, it's not entirely unexpected. You know, people say Trump is unpredictable, North Korea is unpredictable, but when they are continually unpredictable, there's a predictable pattern to what they do, and North Korea is really approximately predictable. They are very adept, very deftly. They put on this two-act play game. First act, go through a period of relentless provocation, causing all kinds of problems, be very antisocial, say crazy-sounding things, threaten nuclear war, and then in the next act, post-provocation peace ploy phase, flashing smiles for the cameras, say, oh, I didn't mean it, let's talk. And usually, almost always, the big powers take the bait because it's in everyone's interest to de-escalate, and unlike some other countries like Afghanistan or Iraq or Syria or Libya, North Korea has conventional weapons with which it can destroy its neighbors, both South Korea and Japan, and of course weapons of mass destruction. And North Korea has shown repeatedly both the intention and the capability to shoot back. So we don't want to go there. And this has been the Pyongyang Ponzi scheme, ruse with which North Korea has wrested away from the biggest powers in the world, its neighbors, billions of dollars over the past decades. And it's working just splendidly once again.
Ambassador Sherman with us and Professor Lee. Ambassador, it's something that kind of stuck out to me, and you talked about the military exercises. It seemed odd to me, correct me if I'm wrong, for a commander-in-chief to refer to his own military's exercises as war games. It almost seemed as if he was adopting the terminology of the North Koreans. Am I wrong, or did that strike you as odd?
No, you are quite right, Mark. He also said they were provocative.
Yeah.
So he was using the talking points of North Korea and, quite frankly, oftentimes the talking points of China. So China's a big winner out of this summit. They get a little bit de-escalation, as the professor said. They get U.S. exercises stopped. They really want troops gone. And they get to maintain their relationship, which is quite important to them, with North Korea. So you're quite right. The president was using North Korea's talking points when it came to our exercises. Our joint exercises were put in place in the first instance for the massive conventional capability that North Korea has. So I hope, my understanding is the Defense Authorization Act, the National Defense Authorization Act, known as the NDAA, is on the floor in the United States Senate. There's a lot of debate that will go on, including around the deal with ZTE that the president made with the Chinese telecom company. I think there'll be a debate about that. And I hope there will be debate about the president unilaterally deciding that our troops are going to stop their joint exercises. It makes no sense why we would give that away up front.
And you said South Korea was not aware he was going to do that?
Well, they made a statement this morning that they will have to come to understand the exact, I forget the exact word they used, the exact dimensions of what the president meant. So when a country puts out a statement like that, the meaning is, well, we didn't quite know it was going to happen this way, so we look forward to you cluing us in. And my understanding is Secretary Pompeo is going to go to South Korea, I hope, and to China. I hope he's also going to Japan. Japan is our principal ally in the region, a very important country. The president said, in fact, that he talked about the issue of great concern to Japan, which is the Japanese citizens that were abducted many years ago. Their fate is still unknown. The president said he raised that, but it wasn't a very long discussion.
Mm-hmm.
He had made a commitment to Prime Minister Abe that he would do that. So we have a lot of consultations to do here so that we have our allies and partners on board with us. The president likes to go alone, but these things don't work unless everybody's on the same page.
Professor Lee, if nothing else were to happen, did Kim Jong-un really get what he most wanted, and that was an audience and a photograph and sort of comradeship, so to speak, with the president of the United States, something no other North Korean leader has been able to do? Will that, at the end of the day, if nothing else happens, pretty much suffice for him?
Well, all that, plus I think Kim Jong-un won things that he didn't even expect to. That press conference by the president was, on many levels, unconventional or even surreal. Not only were there many fallacious statements, factually incorrect statements. When asked about human rights,
right.
President Trump said, well, human rights are bad everywhere, to paraphrase. When asked about how the U.S. can trust Kim Jong-un, he said, well, how can you ensure anything in life? And he referred to Kim Jong-un as smart and gracious and talented, runs his country tough, and so on. It was almost a teachable moment, as they say, on how to defend Kim Jong-un. I mean, it was really a lesson for the KCNA, the Korean Central News Agency of North Korea. It was remarkable how President Trump tried his best to defend Kim Jong-un for the sake of arguing that he has tamed the North Korean leader, that this special Singapore moment is a historic moment, and that today, as the president put it, is a very good day for the world. I think it's a wonderful day for North Korea and China.
Yeah, he even talked about he's an incredible leader. To be only 26 and to take over the country, Ambassador Sherman. It was amazing to hear him go through that.
Indeed, it was. He took over the country, killed his uncle to help gain control, put thousands of North Koreans in gulags and labor camps, then went on to assassinate his half-brother, trying to ensure that he would have control in his government, just dismissed 3 military leaders for 3 new ones to try to ensure loyalty to what he wants to get done here. So this is a brutal, brutal dictator. And so the president's flattery, in my view, went way overboard. I understand showing some respect if you're going to meet with a leader of another country, even a dictator. But I have to tell you, Mark, when Secretary Albright and I went to Pyongyang and met with his father, Kim Jong-il, we had tight smiles on at this quite extraordinary stadium event where there were thousands of gymnasts on the floor of the stadium and thousands more in the bleachers with flip cards showing revolutionary signs and Taepodong missiles going off. And the withering criticism that Secretary Albright had to endure for that tight smile on her face was nothing in comparison to all of the honors bestowed on Kim Jong-un by President Trump. I thought it was also very strange, though, as Professor Lee says, probably predictable, that the president would spend some time talking about what great condo developments could be built in North Korea. Talk about surreal, and that was quite extraordinary.
Professor Lee, you mentioned human rights, and folks, 1:15. Professor Sung-Yoon Lee of Tufts University, Ambassador Wendy Sherman, former Undersecretary for Political Affairs in the State Department. Professor, you talked about human rights. I also was struck. There was a reporter who asked Trump whether he raised the issue of the 100,000 people that are in gulags, and that number may be approximate. And Trump said, I'm paraphrasing, but not the word. He used the word winning. This is a winning day for them. They're going to win from this. And I just thought that was terribly insensitive.
It was quite offensive. And even the statement that Otto Warmbier, the college student who was tortured and came back exactly a year ago to this day, from this day, in a coma, in a state of coma, and died a few days later. I wonder how the family, the parents of Otto, feel about all this today. President Trump said that they're good friends, very good friends of his, the parents of Otto Warmbier, who are outspoken. The UN came out with a landmark 372-page-long study in 2014, and that comprehensive, detailed academic study on human rights violations in North Korea made a very serious allegation and made it persuasively that North Korea's manifold crimes against humanity have no parallel in the contemporary world. That is, it's by far the worst. So the fact that Kim Jong-un, after having caused problems after that banner ballistic year, changed his tune dramatically this year from molto agitato to placido and said, let's talk, and has effected this dramatic image makeover, going from rocket man on a suicide mission to now a legitimate, reasonable global statesman, and for President Trump to legitimate him further with this historic summit meeting and to bestow just praise after praise on the North Korean leader without really gaining anything in return is quite astounding. The joint statement is void. I mean, there's really no detail for any Lucifer devil to take delight in. It's so devoid of any substance. So what's the point, one has to ask, besides giving legitimacy and propaganda victory and time and money with which to buy, that is, time and money for Kim Jong-un, with which he can further advance his nuclear capabilities.
Well, I know we're almost out of time, but Ambassador, normally the way this would work is that all of this would be negotiated before anything was signed. You'd have an inspection regime, a verification regime. You'd have all of that set up before you had this big signing and appearance. None of that is in place yet.
No, none of that is in place. And you know, Mark, I supported the president meeting with Kim Jong-un for the simple reason that Kim Jong-un believes, as the president does actually, that only leaders make decisions. In North Korea, there is no we the people, there is no free press, there is no legislature that makes real decisions in North Korea. But I saw it as a starting point where a real framework would be put in place that would be clear. And in North Korea culture, once the leader says this is what we're going to do, people then get it done. But this document is so thin, there is so little there. He really can proceed any way he wants. And as Professor Lee knows, as you know, Mark, the Kim Jong-un controls all of the media in North Korea. People have loudspeakers in their homes that broadcast whatever the leader wants broadcast.
Last question for you, Ambassador. I have one more for you, Professor Lee, and then we'll let you all go. Ambassador, please tell us that there are, this is just in terms of State Department culture, please tell us that there are career civil servants at the State Department that are somehow going to and actively, even though it may be difficult, going to steer the White House in terms of the proper protocols and doing something real, or just keep this going down the track that it needs to go? Or is that just out of the question? Am I being naive? Have they gutted all those people or what?
Well, I'm very glad that they brought Ambassador Sung-Kim, who's our ambassador to the Philippines, into this process, because Ambassador Kim was part of the six-party process. He actually, and he was our ambassador to South Korea, so he actually knows something. Randy Shriver from the Department of Defense also knows something, but it's not enough. You need a team that has nuclear physicists on it. You need a team that are weapons experts, and I don't see any of that here. I know that State Department Foreign Service officers and civil servants serve whoever is president in a very patriotic way, but we know that former Secretary of State Tillerson really completely emasculated the State Department, didn't fill slots. We still don't have an ambassador to South Korea. We have one on the road to being nominated, but it's really been quite devastating. So Secretary Pompeo, to his credit, is spending more time and enforcing the importance of the Foreign Service and the Civil Service, but there's a long way to go to see a really fulsome team here ready to roll.
And lastly, for you, Professor Lee, you said you feel that Kim won. Where do you think Kim goes from here? What will he be incentivized to do, if anything?
Well, his objective is to try to compel the U.S. to stop enforcing sanctions.
Right.
And I must admit, President Trump deserves credit for having enforced sanctions in a meaningful way, trying to galvanize other UN member states to do their part. But all that will fizzle. I think it's already the will to enforce sanctions has left us already. President Trump told the special envoy, Kim Yong-chol, who, by the way, was designated by the U.S. and South Korea. Nonetheless, he visited the South this year and also the White House on June 1st. The president said that he had told General Kim to, quote, take your time on denuclearization. He might as well just have said, carry on as you please. So, sanctions enforcement is gone. The military threat component of so-called maximum pressure, that went out the window the moment that Kim Jong-un said, let's talk. And, of course, diplomatic pressure on North Korea, trying to isolate North Korea, now that's gone out the window as well. So it's a wonderful arrangement for Kim now that the dynamics have dramatically shifted. China and South Korea would be now better positioned to resume the kind of very generous subvention schemes, subsidization of the Kim regime that we've seen in the past. In the early 2000s, South Korea gave the North about $900 million per year, 70% of that in cash, no questions asked. And China has been giving North Korea more than that. And even the U.S. during the Clinton and Bush years, between 1995 and 2008, gave North Korea in excess of $1.3 billion worth of food and fuel aid. So I think Kim is today poised to galvanize the region to go back to that kind of generous giving. So he has very good fundraising talents, I would say.
Our very distinguished guests, appreciate them both. Professor Sung-Yoon Lee of Tufts University, also Ambassador Wendy Sherman, former Undersecretary of State for Political Affairs in the Clinton administration. I want to thank you both, and if you don't mind, we will keep, as this story develops, and obviously it will, we will keep you both close at hand as expert witnesses in the days and weeks to come, okay?
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you. Thank you both. Thank you, Professor. Thank you both. All right. Take care now. All right, folks, 866-99-SIRIUS, 866-997-4748. We can get a couple of calls in on this. Why don't we quickly? Manny's in Connecticut. Manny, God bless you. Good morning. Get woke. Get ready for impeachment.
Hey, Mark. I'm disgusted by this kabuki. It's absolutely one of the most devastating diplomatic disasters for our country ever. There was no upside to any of this. We got we got screwed. And the idea that he
But how
is
so? Tell
meeting with
people
men,
why you think we got screwed. I mean, you can say that, but just explain that to people why you feel we got screwed.
Okay, number one, for him to unilaterally take away military pressure on him to indicate that denuclearization is really, you know, kind of a side issue now because you can take your time. Praising a man who's killed maybe up to 100 or more thousand of his people, who's used flamethrowers on dissidents, who's used anti-aircraft guns on dissidents to inject his power. And this is juxtaposed against how he treats our allies like Canada and France. It's absolutely disgusting. I can't even. I'm trying to hold it together, Mark, because this is an absolute disaster. And people need to call it what it is. This is kabuki. There is no. This is being pulled by the strings of Russia and China. They are the ones determining how this goes. They are putting out the talking points. Nothing substantial. There was nothing here but giving stuff away to the North Koreans. Trump was desperate to have some sort of appearance that he could do something, and the problem is that, you know, here he is upset that players are bowing to you know, kneeling on the flag, and yet he has the American flag sat up there at exact same position with the North Korean flag. That is the most unpatriotic thing I've ever seen in my life, and I just find this appalling. I find it appalling how the media is treating it. I find it appalling how people are normalizing this lie. It's just, this is not real. This is prima facie propaganda, and it's Orwellian. There's nothing real about this.
Yeah.
This is all contrived. And,
all right.
And for your experts, you know, I mean, they clearly were not happy in some ways, but I understand they need to be. I guess they have careers and they can't. But I mean, come on, this is exceedingly abnormal. What's going on?
Well, they said that. They said that. They said that. They broke it down. I don't know how much you were listening to, but they pretty much poo-pooed the whole thing.
Yeah, I just would like to just get rid of the diplomatic language around it.
Well, I mean, but they are diplomats. I mean, you know, everybody can be like you and you know, ranting and raving in the car. But I mean, these are experts. These are educated people, and so it works both ways. That's for you and me to do. But they broke it down. I mean, literally, for him to call military exercises war games and provocative. That's traitorous to his own military over which he's commander in chief. I mean, they basically said that. They said everything you're saying, maybe a little more dispassionately, but you know, that's the role that they're in. All right, man. All right, thank you. Thomas is in Rhode Island. Thomas, God bless you. Good morning. Get ready for impeachment.
Hey, how you doing, brother? Thank you for taking my call. Can you hear me?
Calling, brother? Yeah, thank you for calling.
Yeah. All right, good. I hope you got time for me, man, because I
want to really not a lot of time, but hurry though. Come on, let's hit it hard.
Can I hold on after the break?
No, because I got to go to another guest. I got to get Red Barber on, so go ahead and hit it.
Well, I mean, ultimately, bottom line situation is, China did what China was supposed to do for their interests. Their objective was to bring North and South Korea to the table, right, so that they can end the ceasefire and come to a commitment of ending the North Korean war, signing a peace treaty that would then have the United States in a position for having absolutely no reason to be on the Korean Peninsula, right? Right now, South Korea is in panic mode. They looking at the situation and they're saying that this young man, Kim Jong-un, was able to do what his father and his grandfather was unable to do. And that was to get the United States president out of the United States and come to Asia to sit down across the table from him. It wasn't the tough talk of Donald Trump that brought Kim Jong-un to the table. It was those ballistic missiles in the eyes of the people of Asia that brought the United States president to Singapore. And if you listen to the con man that's representing this country, he's already given you an indication of what's going to happen, right? We are not going to have the influence in the Asian Pacific that we enjoy right now, period. Kim Jong-un is going to be looked upon as not only a hero to his people, but he's going to be looked at as a big shot to the people of countries like China, Laos, Vietnam, even in the Philippines. I wish I had more time, but this is a reality, man. This is what Trump did by going at and sitting across the table on his own before you had diplomats come together to talk about the terms of what is going to be negotiated. This is the starting point now. This is it, period. So he's showing the North Korean president more respect than he's showing the president of South Korea, or the North Korean leader more respect than he's showing the president of South Korea. And North Korea is saying, we don't need a foreign military to protect us. We got the bomb. What are you going to do when the United States is up out of the Asian Pacific? China and Russia knows exactly what they're doing, trying to get influence of the United States out of there, and they got their man, this Manchurian candidate, in the White House to get it done. Thank you for taking my call.
All right. Was that enough time for you? I think you said it all. I think you said all. He shows Kim, just to add to your point, he shows Kim more respect than he shows his own citizens who are NFL football players.
That's my point.
You know,
and it really doesn't matter how many points he scores with the American public. It doesn't matter what we think about this. It only matters what the people in that region think.
Well, but see, it matters to him and his base because they want to play it as a victory. This is Nixon in China. This is Brezhnev kissing Nixon on the cheek. You know, he needs something to fall back on.
But North Korea is not Russia. North Korea is to the rest of the world is looked upon as a third world, not even a legitimate nation. He just gave them legitimacy.
Yeah, no, you're right. You're right.
Every country around the world is going to say, in order what we need to do to get deals done with America, we need to get a bomb for ourselves. We need to get a bomb. So he just added to a nuclear race. I mean, it's just ridiculous. And the media needs to do their job.
Right.
My
Thank you,
brother's
Thomas.
on the DMC. Get ready to come home.
Your brother's on the DMZ?
My brother's on the DMZ.
Yes, sir.
Over there in North Korea. Get ready to come home.
Yes, sir. God bless you, brother, and thank him for his service.
God bless you.
All right, Thomas, take care now. We'll take a break. Reverend Dr. William J. Barber joins us now. Sirius XM Progress 127. Fascinating discussion today. This is MIP.